what went on, everything be there.
Dog going
You're running it. Just smell me! Smell me! Be careful. Good girl, be careful. That's a good girl.
Chicken roll, and of course.
Oh, right.
I have a video day today.
We're doing some videoing.
Yeah.
Oh, videos, yeah.
Isn't it? It's amazing.
Yes, that's right.
So warm.
And you got rid of your cold.
Yep. Just must know where our chicken necks are.
Chicken necks. Yeah, there they are. Right there, but I don't know whether they're...
Whoa, look at that, Jess. It's in the canola dish. It's no coffee pot. It's Jodie's favourite part of the day trip.
It hadn't. Is it right?
Jodie's filming the hand mold to fill that up.
Yeah. When that was messy, it's been in the oven for a while. So got some little pastry things in it. So sort of that. I made it all kind of on pieces of pastry. So this I'm going to...
Oh, the mushrooms.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little... It's Darian's birthday today.
Oh.
I just rang Susan and I said, you think I ought to ask she and Ron to come around?
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Gardening for you? She's been down here for some time.
No, she hasn't. How is she? She seems to be all right.
Good.
Catches are all...
She's
Oh, she's fine.
a little bit fat actually, I think.
Hear that, Jess? It's fat.
Fat.
She's not going to leave
That's it. Eh?
getting fat. You'll have to wait for a little while because they defrost. And how her paws healed up all right.
Yeah.
I came home from Augusta. It was dark.
Yeah.
And came down the drive. Oh, and look, you know, the lights went on. It was really lovely.
So this is the 4th of October, 2004.
Yesterday, we came down.
Oh, she's come down. Good.
They came down. They couldn't come down for lunch, they came after lunch.
Who was it? Wendy and...
Wendy and Mark.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, a happy dog. Oh, blind dog.
Got your chicken necks here for June.
I'll just leave it there for a bit.
About two
Good.
came up, Grace.
Who was that? Sorry, your grandma's...
Sister, Aunt Grace. She came over lived with Mum, or to live with Grandma. She wanted to be for the last days with Grandma. We used to fight like anything, both of them. And
Was she married?
no, she never ever married. Anyway, when Lee came home from, he was in England during the war, and he went in one day and bought her a plane ticket to take it back to her.
No. Good pointed. So what do you remember about Eliza? Because she was pretty old when she died.
Grandma hated going out. She hated housework. She
Eliza,
loved reading, and she used to recite quite a lot.
And how did she enjoy it on when they were in their old age?
Well, Mum always reckoned that she thought Grandma was frightened of Grandpa because he was big.
He always looks very gruff on the photos.
You know, it looks. June used to be terrified of him.
Joe, Joe Hall.
Always look pretty.
He used to sit at the table. I don't know. Mildred and I were there having a meal one day. Grandma was sitting here. That little, the table that you've got up there, that you had they used to have that one. Grandma was sitting there. Joe was sitting there. I was sitting here. Aunt Grace was sitting there. Mildred was sitting there. Joe's staring at Grace. And Mildred and I, we could hardly contain ourselves. He wouldn't eat, he just stared at her the whole time. And he didn't like her one little
So
bit.
was she one of Jane's sisters?
She was, Grandma's
Younger
sister,
sister.
one of the younger ones. She did some most beautiful needlework. And it was so beautiful and so unique, she was going to put it in the museum. And I was asking Joyce what happened to it when she went back to South Australia. Oh, she said the niece or nephew that she was staying with made her change her will in there. And of course, she said probably all that fancy work went to them, all that needlework went to them. It was sort of special, beautiful, like lace work. She was also a hatter.
So how did Jane? So how did Jane Kathleen handle Joe? Was she the?
Well, when he got old, then she was the boss.
Now, I was going to ask you, so what do you remember about, where were you born? You were born,
I was born in Midland Junction.
and your dad was working in the parish up there at the time, and then you moved to Brookton.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you moved to Brookton?
Well, I must have been, I was born in the February. We moved there in the April, or the April 12 months, I'm not sure.
Right. But then Mildred was born down there, wasn't she?
Mildred was born down there.
And
She
so
was born in the October 12 months, And Lee was born down there too.
Right.
No, was Mildred born at... Lee was born in hospital, but Mildred was born probably at home in Grandma's place, because June was born there. I was born up in the Manx. Yeah, up in Midland. Apparently I was a breech birth too. And they reckon that, this is what Glad Taylor said, that the doctor, they put me aside and said, attend to the mother. And they thought I was dead. But apparently I gave her this little wail of a cry. Oh, she's not dead. So here I am today.
Goodness me.
So run through all the different
See, Mum was
the different towns you went through, because I mean you shifted around quite a lot, didn't you?
Do you remember anything about Brookton?
The only thing I can remember in Brookton was having a shower with my mother. And I was naked, but she kept her pants on. And I can always remember that, and I thought, well, why has she got to have her pants on?
Why
And
she
I
got to
shouldn't have to. That's the only thing I can remember.
This is great.
Yes. Yeah. I can always remember Lynn, when we were living up there at Guildford Road. She must have wandered into the bedroom when Mum was getting changed, and she came out here, came to me and she said, Green's got a bottom.
Who's that? Mildred. Lynn.
Yes.
Watch out.
As though she'd, made a grand discovery. What do you want? You're a cheeky dog, aren't you?
Your grand wouldn't because they were too
Yes, that's right.
That's beautiful. So would that shower been inside the house?
No,
or
it was outside and
in
I
the
had a dirt floor from what I can remember too.
So we wouldn't have
The manse was apparently
So you never got your feet clean then?
out of Albrookton. And I can always remember Mum said that the dad made some hot beer and he came in from the country on the Sunday afternoon. It was terribly hot and he had some of this hot beer. Well, apparently it had fermented. And she said he had to take a service that night. She said, I couldn't stop him talking.
Because he wouldn't have drunk much being a Methodist minister.
Well, hot beer, he made it himself.
Right. But it wasn't meant to be alcoholic.
No,
obviously.
not meant to be, but it happened.
So this is Brookton.
Brooklyn. That's what Mum told me that. And I had a pet lamb that used to, there's a photo.
It's a photo on the
outside.
outside.
See,
That's Brookton.
I always thought that was taken up in York.
Oh no.
But
No,
it's
we
Brookton.
had a pet lamb in York too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
So the one that used to
where
follow
else?
you to school
Yeah.
was
Well, it
York.
didn't follow me to school, it followed the other kids because the back of the house was on a bit of a slope and of course the kids used to belt down the hill and of course as soon as you ran, the lamb used to chase you.
Yeah.
He used to get through the fence and of course he came into the school hall bar and Mr. Sten was there because wanted to know who owned the
lamb.
The lamb.
And you
They
had
said,
to-
oh,
It wasn't Mary.
Willa Sanders, they came and they said, Mary Sanders, please take the lamb.
Ah, he said he said that. How funny.
But when Mary Sanders went to look for the lamb, I don't know where he was. He wasn't outside, so he must have found his way home
So where did you go to school?
in York.
Oh, that was York.
Yes.
That was in Brookton, okay. So you left Brookton when?
Left.
How old were you?
Oh, gosh. Well, they're usually about 3 years, so
So you're probably about 4 or 5.
4 or 5 because I was 7 when I started school.
And where did you start school?
Well, we started up in PC Brook. They started all the orchardists started to clamour the department to build a little school down there. So they did. It's still standing there.
Oh, that's kind of good.
Yes.
In Brookton.
Yeah, peaceful.
Oh, Peter.
Yeah.
PC Brook, yes.
So that was the first place you went to
Yes,
school?
so we went to school there. And there's hard, I think even Mildred went to school there. She wasn't of age just to keep the numbers up. And we always seemed to be late. I can remember the teacher leaning at the window ringing the bell and he was
The Sanders
the
girls.
Batemans and the Sanders and the Hutchisons instead of walking off to school.
So you shifted from Brookton to PC Brook.
Pardon?
This is after you
Yeah.
shifted.
But I
shifted
did
from
start,
Brookton.
when there was one, Gordon Allen married, and he had an orchard over the road, a bit down the road from where we were, and she was an ex-school teacher, and I did go over there and have some lessons. And the only thing I can remember having seemed to me at the time, I had this huge case with a pencil in it, a few pieces of paper, and I was a good girl, so they gave me a lolly and came home with this little toffee. But how long and how many lessons I had, I don't know, because I can't remember.
Yeah.
Then we went
So-
to Peace Brook, and then I went to York. Well, I was 7 when we went up to York.
Right.
So
So you weren't in PSC Brook very long either?
No, for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
So that's when you first had any schooling?
Mm.
Any schooling was at PC Brook?
Well, yes, Peace Brook.
Do you remember the name of your teacher in PSC Brook?
I can't remember the name.
Oh, it was maybe.
Probably a young person, yes. And we always had to go home at lunchtime for dinner. And that's another thing I remember. And I remember envying these boys that had sardine sandwiches wrapped up in newspaper.
Yeah.
And one day when Mum and Dad had to go out to Green Hills or somewhere like that, they were going to give us our lunch. And I said, well, you must wrap it up in newspaper.
Oh, it was because it was wrapped in newspaper, not because it was a sardine sandwich.
Oh, the sardine sandwiches too,
As
because
well.
we never had sardine sandwiches, because Mum always used to cook a meal in the middle of the day.
Right.
And what the sardine sandwich wrapped up in newspaper.
And now kids, kids wouldn't even
Yeah,
know what a cooked meal in the middle of the day was.
that's right.
Okay, so then you moved to York.
We moved to York, and we were up there, I think, for 4 years.
Okay, and your dad was the Methodist minister up in
Up
York?
there, yes, and Woolhouse so much he became, I think, became president of the conference, Methodist conference.
What's the Methodist Conference?
No, down in Maylands, you know, because they went over to the Eastern States to the General Conference over there.
Yeah.
And Mum went with him.
Oh, I see. Tour conference, right.
Yeah.
So what happened to you when they went?
Oh, Grandma came and looked after us, and we all had measles.
Eliza. So she came up to York.
No, she came. This is when we came down to Maylands.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Right.
No, Dad was. He was made president of the conference when he was down when we were down in Maylands. And Grandma and Grandpa came to look after us. Grandma's a horrible cook. We used to sort. Mum used to make beautiful apple pies, you know, with the pastry and the apple in them. And that was too much for her. She used to grate the apple in with the with the flour and the sugar and whatever. It was horrible. And I think that bottom drawer in the bedroom was full of this stuff because when I went down with measles, the others had it. Poor old Grandma, she was a bit upset about that because apparently I used to help. But Ollie was sick.
So you stayed with Joe and Eliza?
No, they came down
Just
to the manse in Maylands to look after us.
So where was Jim and Elsie?
They'd gone over to Victoria
Oh,
to have
some conference.
and they went over as far as Adelaide by boat. And poor old Mum, she was sick the whole way. Seasick. So.
I didn't realise they travelled with the church.
It's bound to be a record of that conference.
In Melbourne?
No, in Adelaide, was it?
No, it was in Melbourne.
It was in Melbourne,
Yes,
but they went to
yes.
Adelaide by boat and then probably by
Yes.
train maybe.
So that would have been
There was a.
1930s.
Did you have in amongst? Apparently, when Dad died, there was an Arthur Daly wrote a eulogy for him. That's not in amongst the stuff.
Oh, I don't think so, but I can double
I
check.
can't understand. It must be somewhere
Or maybe it is with our stuff.
because I know there's the records of Uncle Lee and Dad and our dad, Bruce. Because Bruce got them.
Oh, you're talking about your dad, a eulogy for your dad, you mean?
Yes, that's right.
No, I definitely don't have that. So, back up in York, where did you go to school in York?
Oh, up to York State School.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Stedman, whether you ever heard of him, he ended up in the training college. He was the headmaster at the time.
So he was your teacher as well?
No. Well, I think he used to teach the other school. But I started off in the infants, and I can remember a few of us. There's Miss Kearney up there. She had first, second, and third influence. And then I went, I think, into first standard, and then there was 3 or 4 of us were taken in at lunchtime and given a special test, and we skipped a class. So I think probably that's what they did to see how we were capable of missing that class and getting in with the kids of our
Especially
own age group.
You didn't start till you were a bit older
Yeah,
anyway.
that's right. Yes, I can remember doing that. And I can remember Mrs. Sten always liked cream, and Mum used to sell her. We had a cow, this clotted cream for 6pence a little glass, and I used to have to take it down to her in the schoolhouse.
This is at York.
At York,
So you had the
yes.
cow and you also had the lamb that used to.
Beg pardon?
You also had the lamb that used
Yeah,
to
that's
follow you.
right. Yeah, we had chooks.
So were you living in the back of the church?
Yes.
No, there was a special manse up in York. It was a lovely big place. Yes.
I wonder
Beautiful.
if
We're still there. We're still
It's still
there.
there. Beautiful big dining room, great big table, because a lot of the farmers used to come in. How on earth Mum did it on the stipend they had? But on Sunday we'd have, well, our family, what was 6, they had the Westfalls, and they had 8 kids,
Oh, gee.
and not all of them came, and the Morells used to come in and
For a sit-down meal?
sit down, yeah.
This is after the service, Sunday
After the
lunch.
sun-
So
yeah,
if
on
Gran
Sunday
had
lunch,
that was her
yeah.
duty to
Yeah,
Cook for all those
develop the-
people.
yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
Isn't that big exhausting?
I can always remember that. And I had all my teeth out, or some of my teeth out on the dining room table. The dentist came down, the doctor,
Your
gave
baby
me an
teeth.
anaesthetic, yes. And got some on the teeth.
At home?
Yeah, on the dining room table.
Were they not falling out on their own?
Probably not, probably they were decayed.
Oh.
I was getting toothache. remember. Then I had my tonsils out up there too, but in the hospital up there. Dr. Ward took them out.
See?
They affected my eyesight. Those septic tonsils I had. I had to have glasses for a while, and then as soon as I got my tonsils out, the eyesight was right.
Jeez.
And the same with Lee. He had to have his out. He was a skinny, miserable little boy. And as soon as he had his tonsils out, he just put on weight.
Oh, that happened to
came-
my father as
Maybe,
well.
maybe he didn't eat.
Mm.
Maybe he didn't feel like eating much. If his
Sore
tonsils were
throat
infected.
all the time.
Maybe.
I can remember Mum saying that Dr. Ward took one of my tonsils out to show them, and just squeezed them, and all the pus seemed to come out.
Oh, yes.
That's how bad they were.
Mm.
Yes.
Nice.
Because I wouldn't do that now.
No. I'm sure I wouldn't show the parents now. And this is why.
They don't seem to take the tonsils out. Wendy's the only one that's had the tonsils out, but she didn't have them out until she was working.
Mm.
I've had mine out.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, she got, what's that? It's worse than tonsillitis. It's something else. She rang up, she'd been away for it was a long weekend.
Chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, pardon?
Chip on the shoulder.
Rang up and she rang up and she could hardly talk. She was crying and all the rest of it, so I said, I'll come up and get you. So I came up and got you. She was in absolute agony with the throat. And I took her over to the doctor. There's a doctor over here, and he said,
Dr. Collins.
damn and blast, she said, that poor girl, she's got this such and such. He said, she'll have to have her tonsils out. So he had to get rid of them first. Gee, it was funny. Dr. Stevenson.
Oh.
Dr. Stevenson. He was an old man.
Dr.
I always
Collins.
remember he got married. He used to look after his mother, and he got married late in life when his mother died, and he had this young wife, and she acted as his nurse. It was over here, opposite in those buildings that were over there. Anyway, he. I think he was asking about Wendy and wanted to know what she did, so I told him. Oh, and he said, and he started getting all these books out, and had a room full of people, and she came to the door to see, why it was so long. Anyway, he went and locked the door. I wouldn't let her in. Duke knew him. Yeah.
That's
It's all these little things, and she always reckoned they had a mutual respect because he'd sent up some, probably whether it was a swab or something, up to the laboratory in Fremantle, and she was able to diagnose it. It was something that was very rare,
Mm.
and of course he felt that, that sort of made a mutual respect between the both of them.
Yep.
The fact that he knew there was something that wasn't quite right, not the ordinary run of things with this
And she proved it.
sample. And he didn't last, he lasted for a little while. I know Jack Bars went to Dr. England because he had pains in his chest, and Dr. England told him it was indigestion. Anyway, it didn't get any better. He went to Dr. Stevenson and he had to have a heart bypass.
Goodness me, I went to Dr. England as kids.
It was hopeless.
There's no other choice, I suppose.
Yeah, see, the same dogs.
It has dried out too much. What about them?
What are they?
These little mushrooms.
Oh, the mushy things.
Yeah. I forgot about them.
Shall I turn the oven off?
So I don't know where these things are. I must have a look. I looked yesterday in the bottom shelf, but it wasn't there. It must be somewhere else.
So after York, then you moved to Guildford?
No, we moved down to Maylands.
Maylands.
Yeah, and then we moved to Victoria Park,
Oh, I'll tell you about Maylands. Where'd you go to school when you went to Maylands?
Maylands State School.
Right.
And then I went to Perth Girls for a year. And then I went to MLC after that.
Right.
I did 1 year at Perth Girls in James Street.
Mhm.
And then I did the rest.
Maylands. Where did you live in Maylands?
in the lands.
Right.
Okay. Right on Guildford Road.
Is that
That's
still
gone.
there?
No, it's gone. Do you know where the Catholic church is in Maylands on Guildford Road? A huge thing. And when our Methodist church was a little wooden building in the shadow at the back. And then the manse was there. There's a hollow just over the fence. And all the school, the fights at school used to go there.
Oh,
They'd
that's
fight
nice.
after school, and everybody used to come over, and the kids used to belt each other to pieces. And I can remember one of the nuns came out there to try and stop them, and she nearly fainted. She had to get away. They wouldn't take any notice of her. But they used to,
From the Catholics.
yes, yeah, because it was on the Catholic ground. Yes.
So Vic Park would have been
We went
living in a
out to
manse?
Victoria Park.
Living in a manse?
Living in the manse out there, yes.
Is that church still there, do you know?
No, that's gone too. Yes, they've all
Goodness.
gone now. Yes, they had it was the manse, the tennis court, the church and the church hall. It was on the corner of Shepton Road and Duncan Street.
Right.
Mm.
And so you would
And
have...
Dad he had been sick for years really, and they didn't know what was wrong with him until one day Dr. Bladen said to him, look, he said, I know what's wrong with you. He said, we'll take your blood pressure. And of course his blood pressure was sky high. He said, you've got to stop work straight away. So he did that because we had to move out of the manse. We moved up to Guildford because there wasn't a minister up there because a lot of them had gone away as padres.
So
And then,
were you still going to school when you were in Guildford?
no,
Oh,
I was working, Mildred was working, June was still going to school. And then, and of course, Dad, when he went overseas, he could have gone as a chaplain. He was ordained, he wanted to go with the men, so he went as a digger. And of course, he couldn't pay any superannuation. So when he came home, they billed him all this back superannuation with compound interest. And of course, by the time when he retired, I think they only had about a couple of pounds a week if they had that much. So Dad was also the senior chaplain, so he decided to go and work down in Hollywood. So
Well, he would
was
be
there.
paid for that.
He was paid for that. That was the only thing that kept them viable, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
And then, in one long weekend, in the February one, he came home and said, he was talking about, we had this orchard at the time, there was a mortgage on it, and he said he was wanting to get rid of it, he couldn't.
That's a
This
busy
is right.
bit.
Whenever he said to me, he said, that orchard will be the death of me.
Do you
And next
remember
day he
where
died.
that orchard was exactly?
Yes, it's when you leave Kalamunda and you come down the hill, it curves around like that and then goes up where the school was and round down the bottom like that. And it's our orchard was there, and then there was another property there, and then I don't think there was anything else, and then there was the Batemans lived opposite us, and the Allens had the property there, so it's more or less on its own. I suppose it's still the same.
Oh, I had to do a recce in here. So going back, when you were in Vic Park and going to MLC, how did you get to school? Did you catch
Catch a train.
A train. Right, so then,
Caught the train at Perth and then the one down to Cleveland. We walked from the station down.
so that would have taken an
Took
hour or
ages.
something.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's terrible. Because a lot of the girls that went to modern school were on the train as well. And I can always remember the last year we were doing our leaving, and I said to Beryl, my friend, she was in the same class, I said, look, these modern school girls are doing their maths and things on the train, and I said, it's just
Like a different language.
yeah, I said, I just can't understand it. I said, it's completely different. So we decided that we'd go to Tech at night time for night school.
You and Beryl.
Yeah, Beryl, we went in our school uniforms, and we had a Mr. Hetherington, I think he used to teach at Mod. Anyway, we took our maths books, we looked at the maths box, he said, you can throw those in the bin, he said, they're 20 years out of date. And he said, well, it's a little bit too late. He said, there's not very much I can do about it. He said, the only thing you can do is to go through some examination papers and then go on to that way.
Oh.
No, none. That year year, nobody passed maths, nobody passed physics, nobody passed chemistry. The girls that did get through their leaving only got through on an extra subject.
Such as what?
Well, art,
All right.
music, something like that.
So
Anyway,
did you have to study all of those subjects? Physics, chemistry, maths?
Yeah,
Right.
it was stupid really, and I didn't know what, I couldn't understand it. The physics teacher she was only young, poor girl, I felt sorry for her, the dumb people we were. Anyway, Dad was on the committee,
Was he?
so Mr. Bart, he went to this meeting, and Mr. Barclay was there, and he said, "Oh,
Who's Mr. Barclay?
Mr. Barclay, he was
Who's
secretary,
Oh.
he was a minister, but oh, he said the results of the leaving and the rest of it were, you know, quite good. Dad said, Mr. Barclay, could you tell us how many girls passed maths? How many girls passed physics? How many girls passed chemistry? And he just looked at the head mistress and he just shook his head. Dad said, well, I can tell you. None. And of course, I'd never joined the old girls because I was
Is that why? Ah.
yes, terrified.
Oh.
What if they changed things? I mean, what happened? I mean, that couldn't have gone on for more than a year or so. I mean, there'd be...
Well, I don't know how long it went on. See, they were very old. Mrs. Nicholas, she used to teach maths, and when she had a couple of these leaving papers, and her answers were completely different to what was, you know, yes. And I know Mrs. Ashbolt in York, she used to go to NLC, and she wanted her daughter Joy to go. So she got the prospectus, she looked at the names of the teachers, and some of them were there when she was a girl, so she said, no way. So she sent them up to Northern High.
So were you sent to Methodist Ladies College because it was Methodist, do you think? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And so your dad would have got...
Yes, it only cost us, I think, $5 a term.
Well, it was an expensive school compared to the other private schools.
No, I don't think so. I think they're all on a par then, because I don't think they got any government assistance whatsoever.
Right.
And of course, all the teachers, I think a lot of them were leftovers from the education department. You know, couldn't get jobs.
So in that era,
and they were too old.
So in that era, the state schools were probably better.
Probably would have been, yeah.
Like you were talking about Perth Modern.
Maybe.
Perth Modern School girls
Maybe
doing their
Yeah,
maths.
that's right. Yeah, because they were the cream of the.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to have. They only got there through scholarships, so they were really bright.
Oh, even though it was a state school.
Even
though it was a state school. Perth
yeah,
Modern
but
School.
it was all just you had to get in either. You sat at I think 6th standard for a scholarship or an entrance.
Mm.
But I enjoyed MLC. I really liked it.
So they were friends there? Did you
Yes.
still kept in touch with anyone?
Yes, I kept in touch with Joan Edwards. You know, do you remember hearing about a Billy Edwards? He used to conduct, what is that called? Community centre, community. And he, Joan and I, Joan worked in Caltex, and I worked in,
She does that on purpose,
Yeah.
doesn't she?
I worked in Elders. We used to meet for lunch, but we were both married on the same day.
Oh, really?
She went over to Sydney to live.
Yeah.
And
Joan Edwards.
Joan Edwards,
So she living-
became.
Where's she living now?
She's over in Sydney.
Oh,
Not
she's
in Sydney.
Still there?
Beg pardon?
Do you still keep in touch?
Yes,
Oh, that's
right,
wonderful.
right every Christmas.
Ah.
She I think she must have gone back to teaching after her husband died. It was many years ago, and she was good at art, and she used to lecture on art, etc. And she does a lot of that in this community work now.
And what about the girl that you went to tech with?
Beryl.
To try and do
No,
more
I don't know
extra
what
study.
happened to her. Actually, she was, I don't know why she went to it. Her mother sent her to NLC because she was a high Church of England, and her brother was a Church of England minister. And
What was her last name?
obviously, Sweetman, Beryl Sweetman, and Erskine was a minister. I think it was Erskine. And she married I think, married an Anglican priest, but she was over where she was, I don't know, but I got completely out of touch with her, which I was so sorry about.
Mm.
Yeah, because our lives just took different ways. Well, she didn't pass the leaving, but she took a supplementary, and I didn't know anything about supplementaries. We were just, you know, dumb. And of course, she went through on supplementary, so she took up teaching.
So
She
what
got through
subjects did you pass?
it. English, history, and music.
Oh.
Yes.
But then you end up working in elders on a counterfeiting machine.
Yeah.
So you would have just done training there, I guess. They would have given you
We
a...
got 3 months. It had 3 months training,
Yeah.
and then
So-
they sent us.
So in other words, it didn't really matter what happened that you're leaving, did it?
But anyway, I did learn at maths, because a lot of them, I used to have to do all the balancing in the department, and quite often other departments would come to me,
Yeah.
you know, to do their balancing as well.
So did Mildred go to MLC too?
Yes.
And did she do any better?
No.
Oh.
Actually, it was so a complete disaster with Mildred. It was such a disaster that they gave back Mum and Dad their fees.
Is that right? Why is that?
Well, the teacher they had was absolutely hopeless.
So they recognised the teachers.
Yeah.
Now what about Lee and June? Where did they go?
Well, Lee won a scholarship and went to Wesley.
Wesley College.
Yeah, but June, she just had to go. You know, she just went to a state school.
Which one?
She was at Victoria Park, and then she went, because we didn't go to college until we were in our 12, 13. Of course, June was younger than that. She was younger than Lee. And
When she got to high school age. You went to MLC for the last 3 years of high school.
but then when she went to did she go to high school? She must have up in Midland, I think, but then Dad died and she had to leave to go to work because we didn't have anything to live on.
So she would have been high school age. So
When Dad died.
Where did she work? What happened?
Well, she went, when Joan got married, that her job became vacant, and so they asked her whether she could recommend anybody, and she recommended June. So June got the job there. It was more or less just answering the phone, things like that. That's all Joan did. You know, she had quite a lot of gifts as far as art and everything was concerned. But
There wasn't many jobs though.
there are not many jobs, and the fact that our leaving results were so poor. Terrible.
It's a shame. We just heard the other night at a dinner party that MLC is having a big, is it not a centenary, it must be I don't know, anyway, a big anniversary of some kind.
Oh, yes. I do get, see that Betty Cox, you know, the Reverend Harold Cox that read
Yes.
reading. Well, Betty went to MLC, she's a year older than I, and she got put on the list to get the magazine. Yes.
Just I mentioned it because friends of ours, he's on the council now, the old PNC, what it's called, and said that you had a couple of pictures in uniform of you at MLC and would they like them for the archives, and they said they would. So are you okay if I scan those pictures and give them a copy of you girls in the MLC?
Yes, I've got some, I think, the photos of us
You've got
at
two.
MLC, yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
I have to find out who else is in the photos, I can tell them. Yeah, but it
It'd
would
be interesting to know that some of these girls are still alive. I know Joyce
Yeah.
Barnes died. She was one of the girls there.
Well, then, you know, they'll probably do a big mail out and try and locate.
It's funny, there's some of the girls, you know, there was a Dorothea Thompson there. I think her father was something to do with one of the big, couldn't be West Australian Farmers, one of those firms like that. But she was cruel, really, you know, to girls. She imagined herself, you know, she was one whose parents didn't have to worry about money. And a lot of these girls used to rub it in to you, yes. And I never liked her very much.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
So tell me about Mary and Gustav. What do you remember about them?
He had a very wonderful sense of humour. She was a Scot, a foul Scot. Father, you are disgusting. Carla, you are disgusting. Poor old Gustav.
Very.
And did she call him Gustav?
They call him father.
Father.
Oh,
Oh.
father. Yes.
And he wasn't there much of the time, was he?
No, he was travelling. Yes. She really, when you think of it, when they went over to Victoria, and then they had to come back, and I think Dad's mum was pregnant with Marge at the time, and she had to bring, the 4 children home all by herself, pregnant.
And how would
Yes.
they have travelled in those days?
Oh, travelling by the train.
Yeah.
Came over by
It would have been
train.
a long journey.
Yes, and of course she told me that as soon as her children were 6 months old, they knew who was boss.
Right.
Yeah.
But she probably needed to.
I
She
said
was on her
I
own.
said to Dad, I said, how on earth do your 3 boys, with the natures you've got, I said, you were over 21 and you were yes mother and yet no mother, whatever you did, she controlled you. And then, of course, when they got out on their own, they're all the same. They all blew their tops. Yes. His dad was like a bubbling volcano. Arthur was the same, although he controlled himself a little bit because he was a Methodist minister. But Vic was the same. And yet she had them.
Did she like you? Do you remember what sort of relationship
I
did you have?
I think she did. I think she was quite pleased that we were going to get married. But when I became engaged to Bruce, this Joan Edwards was learning, going to a Mrs. Landell's for art. And she used to also be the art teacher down at the MLC. And she said to Joan, she said, I see where Willa and Bruce Meyer are engaged. And she said, where are they going to live when they're married? And Joan said, well, I don't know. She said, well, I always thought Mrs. Meyer was all right. And she said, if you've got any influence over Willa, tell her never, ever go and live up there with Bruce's mother. Because she said, there was one of the family was Lil, she was the artist, and she apparently was, from what I understand, a very nice girl, and she used to learn art from Mrs. Landell's, and she said her mother, Lil's mother, interfered so much between the both of them that she said she destroyed the friendship between Lil and I.
Oh, really?
Well, anyway, so of course Mum knew what she was like too, and so they said, don't ever, because accommodation very hard to get after the war. So there was a Mrs. I can't remember her name. She was going on 3 months overseas. Mum knew her. She had this cottage at Victoria Park, and she asked her whether she would let Bruce and I rent it. And she said yes. So we made all this arrangement. So in the meantime, Bruce's father had died, and he had written home to his mother, I wish I could be with you at this time, naturally. And he did get, leave
That's right,
to
'cause
come home because he was
Gustav
on
died
the
on
way
July
home.
25th, but
Yeah.
the war was over. I think the war was officially over in August, wasn't it?
Yeah, something, that's right.
But he
I
was
think
still
he was
stationed up in...
But he had
He was in New Guinea, yes. I think it ended while he was
So he got
on the way
leave.
home, yes.
Before war,
What do they call it? Sympathetic leave.
Yeah, that'd be right.
Anyway,
Bereavement leave.
one day I mentioned it to Bruce's mother, that we had this house. And she said, Willa, she said, I wouldn't do anything like it. I wouldn't do anything until you discussed it with Bruce because I'm sure he wants to come and live with me. And of course, Vic and Arthur, I found out afterwards, they encouraged her to think this. And of course, it just put a rift between...
So Dad had to write that, didn't he write a letter?
He wrote a letter.
From when he was still away?
He wrote a letter and told his mother that we wanted to live our own lives. And that upset her terribly.
And Vic,
Especially if she'd just been widowed as well, perhaps.
yes. It's the Robots.
Goodness.
Oh.
Not just the robots.
Oh.
Hello.
What are you doing? Oh, that's
For you, Jodie.
Oh, my goodness.
Your birthday just keeps going on and on.
That's
I love it. It's a fuchsia, isn't it?
Yeah, have you got one?
Oh, There you go.
Yeah, good.
Some of the things are breaking off. Oh, that's all right.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gorgeous,
well.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's
I wanted
taking
to
shape.
azalea, but they
Yeah.
didn't have any
It's taking
decent,
shape.
so.
Yeah.
Hello.
Beautiful.
That's good.
Cute.
Good.
I'll pop it out.
Oh, it's only cooked at 12. Rob, there's
Well-
whether you want a cup of coffee or there's some beer in the fridge.
Oh,
Jenny's having a
are you going to have a
birthday.
beer on?
I think they're gorgeous.
Oh, actually not just yet, no, we just had a coffee, so.
Oh, I want to have a coffee.
There's
Yeah,
your
pop it on a pot.
email from Lynn and Bob.
Oh,
The
Read it out.
email from
one paragraph, that's pretty.
Yeah, well,
But nothing like
too busy enjoying themselves.
Now, I should
You
tell
don't
you
have a
all
cup of
that
coffee?
my name is spelt with a Y.
We discussed that, and I said,
Good.
what do you do, J.I.? It's
And
It's
I
spelled
said-
with a Y.
Oh,
I
is
said,
it? Yeah.
is it I?
Well, it
Well,
does. Does yours with the I?
Why?
I thought it would be I. I am
Right.
sorry, I will read
That's
that.
right.
No, we know now.
You're forgiven, but
Are
I've had it
you
my whole
Chris and
life.
Jodie, are you?
No,
Okay. What's your middle name?
April.
Oh, yes, like Rob's sister.
Oh,
Yes,
How about
we
this?
discussed that, didn't we?
It is.
Arrived safely and easily in Austin, enjoying Bill and Penny's wonderful hospitality, wonderful lake views and Penny's decor, collectibles and terracing. Bob is having a massage right now.
Oh.
Been swimming in the lake, weather is warm, absolutely luxurious bedroom, the lake views from every room in the other house, spa on the deck, could stay forever. Sue, phone mum and tell we're having a wonderful time. Hope all is well at Cardinia, Nathan, Vinny and Azzy and Coco behaving. And Coco's behaving himself.
The cat gets in
Well,
there.
sounds like
I'm
they're
just
having an awful
thinking,
time.
Jodie, if your name's J.A. and you take on Alan's name, you'll be
We
called
do.
Jan.
No, you wouldn't want to take it on Meyer, would you?
Too late.
Now,
Yeah.
what can you say yes for a coffee?
Yeah, I have a coffee,
Sue?
thanks.
What?
Coffee?
Oh,
I hate you, Jodie.
please?
Why? What have I done?
It's,
It's good, I know. It's especially too much spare time on our
you
hands.
must have so much spare time.
Especially in a full-time job.
I'm just dying to have more time to put into it.
I don't know whether anyone.
I've just started, so
It's
that's
not
great.
cream.
Where I've got
Oh, I've got the cream.
Let the cream.
Ah, they're okay.
Why don't you say Wednesday the 5th of September?
Oh, that was a mushroom.
Or Tuesday the...
You know, it's
What is it? I don't know, but I can look it up.
Yeah, it's easy to look up these days, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm hoping the mushroom isn't dried out too much.
Oh, yum, that was food,
Yeah.
as always.
So what's happening down here?
Let's make another coffee.
The photos are terrific, aren't they? Getting the
Mm.
photos, that's...
What makes it far more interesting?
oh,
Yeah, I think it does. I'll have to see.
who took that?
John Meyer.
Oh, you really went over to England and
That's
went
the-
here?
Oh,
The graves in
Hmm.
Germany.
Yes. I haven't read the one from the front. I'll just read that up.
You realise though that your dad, Jim Sanders, was born on the same day as Bruce, 15th of August.
Same birthday?
Same birth, yeah. That's,
Oh,
unless there's a claim.
is it? Dad's 15th of August.
yes, that's right.
Yes,
And we've got 15th of August 1882.
Should make glasses out of it, must be the 15th.
I'm sure we would have confirmed that because we had the...
Oh, isn't that, that's
Yes,
amazing, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
It's one of the-
that's John Sanders, was it?
No, Jim.
Jim,
Oh,
Mum's
yeah.
dad.
No, I never realised that.
It's interesting that you... Because I mean...
Is that his brother?
No,
No,
Jim,
it's
Jim is,
Jim.
is
Well,
mum's
it's
dad.
My,
Oh,
my
And
15th of
15th of August, same date
Dad's is,
as
I
Dad's
thought it was
birthday.
John. Oh, they called him John, but that was Jim.
no, James.
No, John's his
James.
father.
James
Oh.
August.
But he
Yeah.
died before
Okay.
you married Bruce, didn't he?
Yes, yes, he died.
So he never would have-
So you never would have had a...
21.
You
So
never
you
would
never
have
have
had a...
celebrated their
No.
birthdays
Yeah.
Yeah.
together because
No.
he'd already died.
Because Bruce wasn't home anyway, he was away. Yeah.
So he's going on to marry?
Yes, I just be
Yeah, they're coming for lunch.
I said to Ren and Susan, I said, do you think I ought to ask Marion to come for lunch? It's her birthday, because there's no one around that's...
Oh,
And,
Ron.
and I thought, yeah, I know what will
I
happen.
said, don't feel obligated, Mum.
Ron will know every engineer from here to the flex stump.
Oh, that's terrific. I'll just get around.
Yeah.
Well, it would be more terrific. I just need, another 20 years and Betty Library.
Well, what do they say? It's,
You never finish it, do you?
yeah.
It's most
Works in
interesting what she's
progress.
uncovered about Dad's father. He was
Yeah, we're going to have a look at
He was
this.
actually born in Germany.
The dance?
Well, didn't you say
Well, no,
Poland?
in Poland.
Poland.
Danzig.
Danzig, well, I'm sure
Can we bring it with him
was
down a bit?
created after one of the wars. It was a sort of a corridor between Poland and Germany.
Germany, yeah.
And I think it's
On the
quite
border.
often when these
It's around the Baltic
countries
Sea.
were invaded, they brought their own people in to take over.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's probably because I know Eve on the corner, her father was Polish, but her mother was German. And I
Right.
wondered whether, it's the
The
same
Jewish
happened
names,
with
Levi,
Dad's
Isaac,
family.
And
Solomon, John.
when you saw that newspaper article
Basis.
after John had died that you
Yeah.
was reading, do you think it might have been Gdansk that it was on?
No, it was a
It was
big long name. And that's what I said to Dad, I didn't like to say, was your father a German?
Hmm.
I said, was your father born in Germany? And he said, yes, don't talk so of father.
What was the long name?
And I
Don't
know
talk
so
so
of
of
father. So I don't know whether he was upset at the news that he'd got, but then he'd had the cutting, I don't know how long it had been there, or whether he just didn't want to, because Dad went away and fought the Germans, didn't he?
Yes, I mean that's why I wondered,
Yeah, whether there might have been something like that.
yeah, I mean
Yeah.
there would have been ill feeling about Germans, but you said he wasn't interned during the war.
No, that's what the family said,
Hmm.
that he wasn't interned during the war, so they thought perhaps he was Polish. But,
So do all towns have registers of people who lived in them way back then?
Yeah. Well,
A bit like the electoral list type thing, isn't it?
yes, from time to time, but then they have to have survived as well because
Yeah.
there's a big fire in the city. Or,
yeah.
Oh.
Yes, you don't. Yes, it's a wonder actually those records there, because there was just
so much of the war. And
what it
everything
is,
as well.
especially in Poland too, because they just built the country to pieces.
It's splashing, I wonder why.